The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
WDC is now on your radio. Coming live from the Bay, yeah, that way. They talk sports all day, LA. Dropping knowledge, high school, college, trying to score, play by play. NFL, NBA, NHL, that's right, you name it. They gon' bring it to you live. Talking sports and entertainment, from the famous and the you name it. Cover all sports, from the football.
All right, good evening. Welcome to Sports Selective TV. I'm your host and moderator. I'm Farron, aka WDC. I want to thank you for listening in. As always, we have a very spectacular show for you right here on Morris Media Live on Mondays at 5 o'clock. If you've been checking the social media, hey, it's the first show of November, and we're definitely going to be bringing you some highlights, some conversations. I got a segment called Life in Sports. Of course, we got Chasing Hoop Dreams today, and I don't know, man, there's been a lot going on in sports lately. What do you want to say about any of the?
You know what? I always like controversy. I like controversy. I like controversy because you know what? A sport that I actually had an opportunity to watch that was on most recently, and you can speak on this. Rugby, and they kick the ball through a goal, and then the point system and how they line up and how they fall down and how you pick up, and then some situations they kick again and. It's like this whole chess that they play with these group of men in regards to making a sport so complicated, but so interesting to watch. What do you know about rugby?
They tackle one another with bare knees, no pads.
No pads. I mean, a few guys had a little.
They run full speed and tackle one another.
Exactly.
And seem to have fewer injuries than national.
Yeah, what is that about?
Yeah, exactly. But it was very, we of course we talk about our football, basketball, baseball, what have you. And it's a lot to talk about right now. All the sports are doing really well. You know what I'm saying? Baseball guy?
No, not baseball guy, but I tend to watch basketball. But baseball itself, a lot of friends that tell me that I look like a baseball player. But no, I'm not a baseball player.
So I got one for you, Farron, because he already said that he was a Laker fan.
Yeah, oh, he did.
So
okay.
as a Laker fan fanatic,
yeah.
What year do you think he go back to the kind of knowing like something about the Laker players that he actually went to the game to see them play? So first, before he answer that, we're going to ask Caldwell. What was the first Laker player team that you went to go see?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow.
Wilt Chamberlain and George Mikan were the only two 7-footers in the whole league. And so it was like a high school kid going back to his junior high school.
So now who's your player?
My player was Van Exel.
Oh, that was some good years, though. Okay. That was some good years. I liked it. That's when his lip was kind of messed up. Yeah, I remember them days.
Hey, they had a good squad, though.
Yeah, they did. They ran again.
Yeah, they actually had a good squad back then.
Yeah.
Whoa. Van Exel, huh?
Yeah. I was 4 years old.
So, we got some history about to happen here. The stadium is about to be built. The Chargers, right? The Chargers is going to be here. The Rams is going to be here. So as you an LA guy, grew up here, born and raised, you got these two teams. So who would be your football team?
It has to be the Rams. I mean, they started off here in 1949.
46.
46.
Almost said 46.
Actually, they had won a title in Cleveland, and Dan Reeves uprooted his team and brought him to Los Angeles to play in the big leagues.
It's like the third time being here. What, the third time's a charm?
Yes.
So,
Caldwell, you had an interesting story off the air. Do you want to share that about how you used to get in and watch the games?
I grew up walking distance from the Los Angeles Coliseum, in the Memorial Coliseum. In a rapidly changing community. When my family arrived in 1943,
wow,
we were flies in buttermilk. You know that expression?
No, that's a new one.
Can you picture buttermilk?
And flies?
And the fly, when one fly in it,
okay.
It stands out.
All right. Well, that was going to happen regardless, right? No matter how curly your hair was, right?
I'm saying that was Los Angeles in 1943. Okay. The Coliseum had a little fence around it about the way you put one around your house. And so to go to an event, you just hopped over the fence. Then they put barbed wire on top. And you hopped over the fence. And they raised it higher and put a leaning barbed wire on top. So we had to come up with another strategy. So one kid brought some wire cutters, and he found a place where there was ivy growing on the fence, cut a hole in the fence, covered it up with the ivy. We all knew where it was. that was our entry.
Yeah.
And then they fixed that. And our last strategy, before I got too big to get excused as a kid, was you would wait for the line with ticketed people to go in, pick someone who could be identified by the ticket taker as your parent, and say, "My dad has a ticket." And step in front of him and run. Just run. And once you're inside, there's a crowd that nobody chases.
You're gone.
That was my history. Those were the
days before surveillance.
Yeah,
right?
Delinquent days. Yes,
the delinquent days.
Yes,
we all had them. Had them.
Yes.
So 4 years old, Laker fan. Is that obviously influenced by what uncles, dad,
my dad,
family?
My dad. He was the one that really got me into basketball growing up. He gave me a ball, like, right when I was born, like, here you go. Like, of course, me not knowing what it was, just started, like, loving the game ever since I can start walking.
Yeah.
So, ever since then, he's like, let's watch the Lakers. I'm like, who are they? So I just started watching them. I love the colors. Yep, purple, gold. Come on,
oh god,
that's royalty.
So
colors.
Any chance of you saying, "Okay, Dad, check this out. I'm actually now a Bulls fan." Like, did you have that courage to pick another team, or is
no courage,
not going against the grain?
Nope.
Low key though?
Nah, no low key.
So
I've always loved the Lakers.
Wow. So no matter how sorry y'all,
no matter how bad they were.
Down. So let me ask you the question: what game you snuck into?
I have never actually snuck into a game.
So don't worry about him sneaking into the Laker games. He's not sneaking in. He's going to have a ticket. So
Cool deal. So again, we got the Chasing Hoop Dream segment coming up. We got a conversation with Caldwell that we created called Life in Sports. And for me, just having the discussion of my latest experience as a fan of the game and going into this Lakers versus Clippers first game and how rude the Lakers fan were in this Instagram page that I was in. Mm-hmm. Like, I made a comment, man, and then I was like called idiot, you're stupid. Like, I'm like, oh, I didn't know the Lakers was your team. Like, it's your team? Like, that's your banner up there? So it's like, when I start talking to Caldwell, it's like how we objectify so many things in life, and we don't even realize that it's a way of our behavior and how. But
you could take that into the instance of like where, and you said 1943, 1946. On that part of Central, was that kind of the cusp?
That was we had a little corner of the
that was a cusp,
black community.
Right? That was just a little cusp, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So
then you're still dealing with identity, and that's what happens in sports. Is that these people that you're bantering with is dealing with identity. Mm-hmm. Since this whole identity crisis and using this team as your crutch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And just stand on your own 2 feet. Because you can't be responsible. And it's the same attitude that we have in our neighborhoods today. Right? I'm going to stand on to these 2 feet for this community, but you're really not part of it.
I would say,
like you said, you don't own the team.
Every human needs to belong somewhere.
Right.
And so that's...
Yeah, and we're going to get into it because, I mean, I literally broke down, we had a conversation and I wrote down a bunch of notes, and then we're going to highlight some of the topics today, and then the rest of the month, each Monday, we're going to actually break down how objectification plays out in not just sports, but military, in our own personal lives. Right. I got the definition for you.
Yeah, need a definition because people out there need to. We use words with people not really knowing what they mean.
Yeah, and lay the definition on us now.
You want it right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the simple definition is to degrade to the status of a mere object, and it's literally just.
Is it an adjective pronoun?
It's desensitizing. Like instead of you being Illya, now you become the enemy. And so I've objectified you to not just being a person anymore, but to being a label.
It's both a verb and a noun. If you're fully human as I am, then I have to be aware of, and I have to deal with what goes on with me when I damage you, because we really are the same and want to get along and all the other stuff. But if I make you an object, not really. The language is when I make you an other of any type,
right?
Then I can do whatever I want to you without any guilt.
And that's when you're really the now.
Justify it,
yes,
and that justifies your position on that and your conversation on
gotcha.
That. And what we'll get into later is that objectification is at the heart of every nation's preparation of young men, mostly men and women, to kill in combat without remorse or guilt. You're not killing another person.
Which is...
You're killing a terrorist.
Exactly.
You're killing a Nazi.
Right.
You're killing a gook.
Because you create a noun.
Yes.
You create a noun.
Yes.
I got you.
And how it's, and then it's the same way it turns into sports.
You understand now. So when you have a 9-year-old, you look at every word as what they really mean. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I think if everyone could be 9 years old again and try to understand the words we use and what they really mean, this place would be a different place.
This word relates to
that? Okay.
You know what that means?
Break it down for me. No, but what do you want? Yeah.
We just went to school. Hey, we back, y'all. Hey, we went to like 8th grade, and so
she's directed from the back. But
yeah. She brought out some big words. I didn't even know what they was.
To her, if she wants the audience to know what cognitive dissonance means, bring the definition to us, dear.
So that's we'll take care of that on the second half of the show.
Exactly, because you know what? Hey, I didn't come here for spelling bees.
Yeah, right.
Because we got some fanatics out there. We got some great events.
And the point is like you said, is like how the fanatics live their lives through these sports.
Yes, and
they don't understand that it also impacts your family. I mean, it goes deeper than just sports. It literally ingrained in some of our.
Yeah, I admit that. I mean, just like this kid here is a Raider fan, he would probably be a Rams fan. It's just because you have a sense of loyalty, and that's just what it is. It's your mother tongue. You know, I would be a Raider fan because when I was a little kid, I went to Raider games. You know, I'm an A's fan because I went to the A's games. You know, I've actually seen those players play. I've seen those things happen. So it's that's what we identify with, because we're all searching for some sort of identity. But you see how
it abrupts itself, how it shows itself when you fighting in the stadiums and they beating up Dodger fans and they're beating up. I mean,
killing them
from a sport.
Because it goes back to the identity crisis,
right? Because they objectify. You're just if you're a Dodger fan, then you're not. You're the other.
I would suggest that without learning something else, and we would call that growth. You know, you expand and you take on other experiences and other identities, and these childhood ones diminish in importance in our lives. But if you're 45 years old and all you still have is what you had at 9, I don't know what the present term is, but we used to call it retarded.
Right.
Well, I'm saying, and we have that happening in our culture. We have that happening at our sports events. So when people start attacking one another because you have on a different jersey than I, that's early middle school behavior.
Yeah, I should be able to poke at you a little bit and you should be able to poke at me a little bit. And whoever wins, wins. Who does the best poking wins. You know, beyond that, it's like you don't own the team. You don't play for the team. But it's something like gets really embedded. And I don't want to take like I said, because we're going to talk about this, but Caldwell said something we were talking earlier, is that the fans buy the ticket, they feel entitled. How did you say they feel entitled to be able to talk trash or defend their team because they purchased the ticket? How did you say?
I'm just saying this. The system incorporates all of that. Yeah. I mean, it's implicit in buying your ticket. Right. We'll support you. Yeah. You know, you're
so you want this so we can move on. Let's see what she said here. Cognitive
dissonance.
Thank you. The state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, especially as related to behavioral decisions and attitude change. That's a lot saying nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Another descriptive term.
Right. Just a whole bunch of words put together so to confuse you even more.
Yeah, but we're gonna give you some examples of objectification, how we objectify, like Caldwell mentioned. So we're going to take this first break because we got Chasing the Hoop Dream segment coming up. And we'll be right back. Shout us out. Let's count.
AskIllya.com. Media marketing experts here to help you grow your business into the next level and boost your sales. Visit us to learn more. AskIllya.com.
Last time that I checked, it was 5 chains on my neck. It was no smut on my rap.
Yeah, so my name is King Q. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm an empowerment speaker. I'm a youth advocate, and I'm a host. I do a multitude of different things. Event producer, spoken word artist. Got to plug that as well. So
so it's good to have these organizations that are creating events that are organically to be able to get people to socialize, to communicate, to talk. Where do you get all that mental toughness?
For me, it's been learned throughout trial and error, to be honest. About 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, I made a decision, and I said I don't want to do anything that's not in alignment with my purpose. In order to reach purpose, you have to go through trial. So for me, I just learned to embrace the trial, and for me, my trial, my rock bottom was homelessness. So that gave me a whole nother level of mental toughness.
Boy Southwest, legendary self-made progress. Last time that I checked.
Coming to you live November 16th from the West Angeles Performing Arts Theater, it's Hope Arise, the musical, starring Rosemary Smith Coleman, Lamont A. Coleman of Tyler Perry's The Haves and the Have-Nots. A compelling story about Dee, a gritty 10-year-old from the Chicago South Side neighborhood who fights to evade a life of abuse, poverty, and despair by commandeering freedom and love from a family she seizes as her own. You don't want to miss Hope Arise. Get your tickets now at eventbrite.com or give us a call at 323-733-8707.
Keeping Our Lungs Safe has been part of the local initiatives that's been going on to educate our decision makers about, the impact of flavored tobacco, specifically menthol, in the African American community. Right. And so we actually were at the LA County Board of Supervisors office a few weeks ago where they were having a meeting to discuss an ordinance that would ban all flavored tobacco products and vaping products, including menthol, in certain areas of Los Angeles. And they actually ended up passing that ban.
So we finally got a tax passed, which was Proposition 56, and that was a couple of years ago. That put a $2 tax on cigarettes and vaping.
That's why they're so expensive.
Yes. Thank you. Can pat me on the back.
So you thought that
slave trade. So when we see Harriet Tubman, we need to look at it from that lens, and that ever since then, this plant has been killing us in one way or another.
Right.
This segment was sponsored by P4E. Visit playingforeternity.com for more info and listen to their Selective Games live broadcast on Sports Collective Radio.
All right, welcome back. So just to touch on that, keeping our lungs safe, last week when you was on the show, and I sent you the message about smoke 'em if you got 'em, that was a military term that we use, that when we're out training or wherever, they give you a break. And so they announce smoke 'em if you got 'em. And so we're going to talk about actually how even with cigarettes has been objectified as in the military as a celebration.
I would, since I preceded you, it wasn't smoking if you got them. It's smoke them, because when I was drafted and we were conscripts in those days, part of your issue came a free package of cigarettes. The United States government entered collusion with the tobacco industry to addict all of its military personnel. We were all repeatedly given cartons of cigarettes. And every 2 hours, they told, smoke break, light them up. And by the time he came along,
I came in, it was smoking if you got him.
Desi, are you hearing this?
By the time
are you kidding me?
It's light him up if you got him.
This is why I didn't go. I just went to college. I couldn't understand.
So
nobody really they never clicked.
Yeah. So my era was smoking if you got him, because everybody wasn't smokers.
But you like smoke. 3 generations from him.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And
so this has been like something on.
Yeah, it's a celebration.
Could you imagine this? I mean, this military stuff. Could you imagine this?
Yeah. Jeez. I thought it was crazy.
This is nuts.
I want to smoke. I want to pull fire into my lungs. That makes no sense. And so I was a minority, but you kept your darn mouth shut because the majority was doing this thing.
Right.
So that was trying to ask her what the conversation was around that, because it was a way that was given us to celebrate.
I mean, because if you look at it from his perspective, that's a long time of something that's just been over and over and over. So how much cancer has they contributed to the American
millions of dead? So
we talking about Comcast and Time Warner and the Harriet Tubman. I mean, it's so many situations this has happened,
and then you don't want to go DNA. That your DNA is probably looking for.
We got the youngster here though. What do you think of this though? I mean, you the future. We about to be gone in a minute. You know what I'm saying? So
Caldwell ain't going nowhere yet.
I'm right after him. I'm behind him on the side. I mean, what's happening? You got vaping. You got politics. You got so much as young people to kind of take on. Where do you take your little chunk?
Where I take my little chunk is like vaping itself. Like, of course, like there's these kids that can just get it from older people. Like, hey, can you buy this for me? And then in my thought, like they can just easily get these vapings out of nowhere from older adults. So from older adults' perspective, like they can. Why are they giving like children as well? Like even though. During that part, like kids gotta like get away from that stuff. It's more of like a pop culture thing where like if you do it, I'm gonna do it with you, like things like that. So it's like trying to fit in, and I just don't like to see it that way. I wanted to be like build your own, become your own leader. Like look at yourself as you can do this better than anyone else. Do not get part of this. Become your own leader.
And I know, not that we're from hanging out with Caldwell and even the education that I've taken, that level of acceptance though, right? That peer pressure of being accepted. If you don't have the foundation skills like Caldwell's going to talk about, and your environment teaches you to stand on your, like, be your own person, you want to be accepted. Yeah. And some people don't have that to fight with, and so you do it. Let me try it, or just to fit in.
Isn't there an old saying that more people want to be told what to do than go out and do something?
Absolutely,
yeah. So
there it is. So smoking if you got them.
So shouts out, African.
You got them.
African.
I got beat up the last time.
African communities. African coalition communities. No, shouts out to them. So now, thank you. But we're just getting the word out there. That's part of the whole Morris Media team here at Morris Media, Sports Collective Media, as well as the whole Ask Illya team, getting that information out because it's serious, especially with youth, like you mentioned, youth and how they getting it. Ain't Siri just talking.
Eavesdropping.
I ain't said nothing to you.
All right, so we're gonna get right into the next segment. We got Chasing Hoop Dreams. Man, introduce yourself so we can get started.
Woo woo.
My name's Alejandro Plaza. People call me Ollie. I played basketball since I was a baby. I just know that it's always been my first love, and it probably will be one of my only loves in my life. Yeah. So I just knowing that.
Where did Ollie come from? I'm thinking alley-oop. Was you throwing alley-oops to people? Or what?
That's where I got it from, for real. Like, people say, hey, alley-oop. Sure you did. Hey, I'm going to put this as my Instagram name, Ollie Up. So, it just makes sense.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you're a point guard?
Point guard.
True point guard? And that's a
point guard, shooting guard.
Ooh. I'm a shooter. So you're 1-2.
I'm a shooting guard.
So you're a 2.
I see that more of my game. I can shoot, I can dribble, I can pass, but I'm more of a...
Okay, well, there's 2 kind of shooters as a 2, because now you're not a 1. You're not bringing it up all the time. So you a spot-up shooter?
I can spot up.
Are you coming off the screen?
No, I can spot up, like just straight out spot up.
Corner? Top?
Top.
Okay, that's one of the easiest shots. You know that,
top?
right?
No.
One of the easiest.
The corner wings.
The corner wings is the tough ones.
Those are my shots.
That's your shot?
That's my shot.
I just had to ask. Back to you, sir.
Now we got your position. Growing up, you saying the environment, Pops gave you the basketball. When did you start, actually getting out on the court? Like what?
Like right when I was getting on the court was when I was playing in Kids Play, actually in the same spot where Playing for Eternity plays at. I played for Kids Play, I believe, when I was like 7 years old.
Wow.
And 7 and on, just until 4th grade. And after that, I just started playing basketball, just at like recess and things like that. And then I really got very competitive when I was in 7th grade, playing for like varsity, like middle school. And I was really blessed to get the opportunity to play. And then when I got really, really serious was freshman year of high school. I was playing the best like I've ever played in my life. I was almost like grabbing rim for my height. Mm-hmm. Like it was just to that point. And then I went to AAU tournament before starting my 9th grade year. And then from there, it was a bad experience. I actually tore my ACL.
Oh, the injuries.
So yeah, injury kicked in.
So these are always the best stories, right? Because he's chasing a dream, right? Yeah. So how'd you tear it? What happened?
Yeah, it was in the 4th quarter. 2 points.
You see how they remember all this?
Yeah, I'm gonna remember this like point. There was 26 seconds on the clock, and it was like a chase. Like I had hops like back in my heydays, like 18. I'm sorry, it was like 14 years old. I went for a block. This guy, he was like, I believe 5'11". He was going for a layup. I blocked it with one hand I pinned it, and then I landed
to the pin.
I pinned it. Like it felt great. Yeah. Like, I felt like I was running like to block it. I was ready to go get it. And then from there, how I landed was the worst part. When I pinned it, there was 3 other guys trying to get that ball out of my hand. So they all like trampled. I went like this, and then how I landed, I put all my force on my left leg, and then those 3 guys trampled on top of me. So that all that force like generated like a tear, and then from there like it was a blur. It was a blur. Like I don't really.
So let's talk about the blur, right? Because this is the mental toughness, right? So all this time leading up here, you've got this mental toughness. You're in the gym. You've got your exercise discipline, all that stuff.
Yeah.
How did you manage that through the tear, through the recovery process?
Through the recovery process, I just knew that like I wanted to get back on the court. So what I did was I rested 2 months, and I just got back on the court, put on a knee brace. I know the doctors tell me you need to get a surgery, and like I myself, like I didn't want to get a surgery, not yet, because I knew that like I was gonna lose my starting spot. I just had the mindset like I'm losing all this stuff. I didn't want to go away from it, so I went back on, started training, made sure to like do stability workouts, like go in the pool, like just get my body right, like stay in the same shape I was. From there, just keep grinding. I made sure that I kept my starting spot. I started over juniors and in the JV teams, and then it was really, really hard to overcome all those obstacles. because a lot of people didn't think I was able to play anymore. Like, that's the one thing I didn't want no one to know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want people to, like, think, hey, Alejandro, he can't play no more.
What did the doctor say?
The doctor told me that, yeah, you need to get surgery as soon as possible. And actually, I kept playing without an ACL, and I made my knee even worse. So from there, I played through a hole in my meniscus, and they had to shave 40% out of my meniscus. So yeah,
you probably got a band-aid.
Yeah, it was tough.
So how does that transpire to now?
To now, I just know that, like, still don't, like, make sure, go to the doctors, you know, do what you have to do, get it done sooner than later, because I know that if you do it later, it's just, you're only going to get worse. Like, you want to get all that stuff done before starting anything. Don't care about, like, what people think of you. Like, just know that, like, hey, you got to start it from scratch. Like, start from scratch and, like, just work your way up.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were about 14 at that time, right? Yeah. Where were your parents?
My parents were with me.
Well, I'm saying, doctor saying, operate. And you're saying no. And you're 14 years old. And your parents are going, well, what do my kid wants? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, my dad, he let me decide what I wanted to do. He knew that I love basketball so much that, like, hey, if this is your decision, I know that you have to make your own choices in life. So you make them. You got to, like, choose what you really want to do. You want to keep playing through an injury, or do you want to take care of your body and then wait? For me being as a young kid, I was impatient. I wanted to get things done, and that wasn't something I should have done.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, identity obviously is in there with your discipline for basketball. You said, don't let people tell you what to do or what they think about you. What was going on in your mindset around that? Like identity crisis. I mean, what were you like?
Yeah, there was a point. Just knowing that people, regardless, thought I was not going to be able to play as good as I was going to be before. I was shorter. You know, I was a light-skinned Hispanic. You know, things like that. Hispanics, like, we're not going to be the best, but, like, I know we can show. So from there, I just know that that my identity was going to implement of what I would do now, and I showcased that by playing through an injury, and of course it buckled back and forth. I kept playing through it regardless of pain because I really loved the game of basketball. So I didn't want to show people that pain and that, like, hey, you can still do it. Like, in my mind, I was just thinking that.
So, P3, right?
Yeah.
Done you and done it again. I would think that now playing for P3 kind of gives a whole nother perspective too, because P3 stands for what? Tell me.
To me, it stands for, you know, always showing who you are as a person, not just you know, only basketball but itself, but like who you are as a person, who you can demonstrate on the court, you know, that poise, that your character itself. You know, you don't want to just bash on another team just because, hey, like of other people's, like, ethnicities or backgrounds or things like that. We all, like, are a collective group, and I see it as that.
And they play tonight, right?
Yeah, they play tonight.
I can't wait to watch. So,
yeah.
So when you hear Chasing Hoop Dreams, what does that mean to you?
That means to me that it's showing that even though as a person of me, like, you still have an opportunity to play regardless of who you are, your background, or anything like that. You still have an opportunity to play each and every day. You don't always have to be the best at it, but you can play with whoever you are, with your peers or anything. It's still going to be competitive, and how I see it like that.
You mentioned something about being a light skin in your culture. What you had to deal with that as a young guy?
It's mostly because I'm pale, but it's just I was like people knew I was Hispanic. They thought I played soccer. They thought I played different sports. Mm-hmm. So they never thought I played basketball. So I wanted to prove these people wrong that I'm not just, hey, this guy plays soccer, like, or baseball. Like, I mean, those sports are cool, but it's not my sport. My sport is basketball.
Typical, right? And not only Hispanics, but blacks and other nationalities deal with this lighter skin, same scenario.
And when I arrived in 1943, 617 East 30th Street,
well, you know the address and everything.
My good friend Salvador Esquer and his brother Francisco Esquer. Salvador looked like his mother, who was totally pale and red hair, and his father was very dark. Francisco looked like his dad. And that was my introduction. I was a East Texas black transplant. And my first discovery was Salvador was the preferred son because of his light skin. And I was 11 years old, and that puzzled me. And I have not solved it yet. I'm still puzzled. And I'll just share this. Years later, must have been about 10 years ago. I'm now 85, so that was 75. I went back to the old neighborhood just to drive around. I don't know what was going on. Went into the mom and pop store on Maple Avenue. Francisco owns the store.
Wow.
Francisco had started UCLA. They were bright. I mean, Salvador and I were two peas in the pod. And, well, how about Salvador? He became a truck driver.
Wow.
I mean, anyway, I'm saying there, but for the grace of God, go I, you know. Wow. So, anyway, it's just that. Those very bright Latino boys, without the opportunity that I had, because we moved out of that into another more challenging community, and I picked another model. Jewish boys who were headed for college.
Wow.
And my black friends, why are you so friendly with the Jews? I just kept my mouth shut because they know where in hell they're going. and
different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And my parents didn't have the ability to provide the guidance. My parents are first generation free. Dad
free. Harriet Tubman, October 19th.
Free.
I keep saying October. Why do I keep saying
October's gone?
Jeez. I just don't want to push November at all.
Yeah, my dad was born in 1884, my mother 1896.
1884. And so the 1886 document that they're talking about, you got a lot of knowledge on
Listen, you mean Plessy versus Ferguson? The Supreme Court?
Yeah, is that that passed in 1886?
No, 1893 was the Supreme Court.
But they were freed in what year?
Oh, 1865 was the emancipation.
Right. And then they created the amendment for... Right.
1864 was the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. But it didn't get down to Texas till 1865.
Right.
Juneteenth.
Y'all still fighting.
Juneteenth.
They still fighting for 6 more months. We free over here, huh? Where we going?
I didn't have the internet then. It was like a horse. It took a while to get the word down.
And I guess this could lead into our conversation, Caldwell, as we discuss of how objectification, how we objectify in our culture. So one of the first notes that I wrote down for you to discuss was our culture. So how does objectification show up in our culture?
I'll just take where it comes. 2 major industries: professional sports, military in our country, dominant major American industries. At the heart of training malleable youth to become killing instruments in behalf of our country is you objectify the other. You're preparing to kill terrorists not people. They don't say not people. They just focus on the terrorism. So during your exercises and activities and while you're learning to shoot the rifle and use the bayonet and all that, it's to kill terrorists. Before it was terrorists, it was GOOT, Southeast Asia, Vietnam. Before that, it was Nazis. There's always an other.
Right.
So you objectify the other. Then they're not people like us. So you can kill them without remorse or guilt. That's the theory. But what's in fact true is the stress of just training to become a killer and the stress and trauma of actually executing it all inflict injury upon every participant. Different degrees with each individual. It's only in the 21st century is our medical community recognizing that. PTSD is a 21st century buzzword. My goodness. The kids who crucified Christ were Caesar's conscripts, and their MOS, their job, was killing people all day, every day during their conscription. And I guarantee you they went home to dysfunctional lives because they were screwed up. They had been damaged by that trauma. And nobody has told their story, and it's 2,000 years later. I'm saying it has always happened, and it continues to happen. You cannot do inhumane things without damaging the human.
Not happening. So objectification comes out in culture, and then we talked about how it happened in colonization as far as the Jews in Europe, and then even you talked about the white Jews and the dark-skinned Jews had the same issues.
So, these words, these fancy little things they call words.
Goodness.
So you have culture. What are we saying there? Because the culture, like you said, American culture.
We're going to give an example. We're going to give you an example of how objectification shows up in culture with the basic conversation of
I don't know where you want me to go.
The Jews.
What pops into my mind? Jews are Semitic people from the Middle East, dark skin. Some of them immigrated for, in pursuit of a better life to Europe.
Okay, education.
Mingled with the locals. Skin tone lightened. They're called the Ashkenazi Jews. They became the leaders of the whole Jewish community, the light-skinned folk. And they are now the ones who run. And when England, the United States, and the West kicked out the Palestinians and handed them a state, hoping that Jews would all go there, guess who were in charge and who are still in charge? The light-skinned Jews. I had the opportunity to know, and you can look him up, Tamir Tasser. If you're out there, you see this program, Caldwell's talking about you. Dark-skinned, brilliant Jew who's explained he was a visiting professor of mathematics at UCLA. Young man in his 30s. He said, ever since we've had the state of Israel, every year, 40 children, I don't remember at what age, the 40 brightest kids in Israel are pulled together from wherever they live into one class. And from that point on to the PhD degree, they're kept together as a class. They are trained by the brightest minds in Israel. They're the leaders that Israel specifically plans its leaders.
Where did these dudes come from?
Listen, now he said, Tamir said, I was an anomaly. I got selected because I was so smart. I was the only dark-skinned fella in the 40 in my class. And they're now graduate. They all have PhDs, and they're out now in the world getting experience in the world so they can come back and bring their experience to leadership in Israel.
That's just one way. Hold on. We got a four more. So this is going to be a little touchy, but again,
like marrying your cousin.
Objectification expresses itself in prostitution, and this is one of the ones you can talk about how that shows up in prostitution. If you want to say
our oldest profession, you mean?
Yeah, our oldest profession.
Well, how do you do that?
It's not milking a cow. No,
what I'm saying is, among guys and those environments of sports, athletics, and in the military, it's not about other human beings. Go out and get your piece, man. You're dealing with some object, getting a piece of an object. Nobody talks about, go get my sister. You know what I'm saying? You objectify it. And the military says, okay, it's leave time, furlough, get yourself some cigarettes, some booze, and some women.
Objectification. And again, ingrained. This is the one that we talked about, which just blew my mind. The bar mitzvahs. Heard of bar mitzvahs, right? Mm-hmm. So how that Jewish community keeps their objectification alive is that child has to go and study all the Jewish history, all the Jewish background, and then present himself to the community of people, and they ask him questions about what he learned. How do you say that?
I'm fascinated that you focus on the objectification part of it. I'm just talking about the bar mitzvah process is about maintaining their culture.
Yeah.
And children are religiously and assiduously trained, and the bar mitzvah training, I don't know what school you went to, if there were any Jewish kids in your school. After school, they went to Jewish school. And the Jewish school was teaching Jewish history. And what you have to do as you approach your 13th birthday is you have to demonstrate that you mastered the information. And your parents' responsibility is at the dinner table to vigorously challenge your understanding of the information. So you have to you take a position and defend it.
So you hear this same type of cultivating, I would call it, with the Asian community.
Yes.
Which, extremely overpopulated, So
they
all
now
about
dominate the University of California. and before that, it was the Jewish kids who dominated.
Right.
But I'm saying to arrive at that level takes a lot of work, and we were cut off from our identity and culture, etc., and thrown. Okay, now you're on your own. Work it out without any guidance. So what I'm saying is, and we have not established or even recognized, I think, how hard we need to work to get out of our circumstances.
I mean, at the end of the day, at some point, we have to become solution driven.
Yes.
So that's where your secret sauce comes in. It's like going back to something or figuring out something.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the solution part. We want to cover as this being a sports show. We want to talk about how it shows up in athletics more in depth, as we talked about, even as being a fan of a sports team, and how, again, we objectify you as not just Illya anymore, but you're a Raider fan. And if I'm a Cowboy fan and you're a Raider fan, then you're no longer a person. So then I can deal with you as an object, and I could treat you and justify my position because you're not even on the same team as I am. And that expresses itself.
Well, it expressed itself sometimes a couple of years ago at Dodger Stadium, where somebody from one of the northern teams, I don't know,
Giants,
and people darn near killed a guy in the parking lot, because he had on the wrong uniform, wrong jersey.
So there's two pieces though when you look at sports. You look at you got on the opposing jersey. I don't like that jersey, but then the mouthpieces start to move. and the ego started to swag, and then the humiliation goes on, and all these different pieces come before there's a fight.
Yeah, particularly if you have nothing else to talk about.
Right, and that's the experience I experienced in the Instagram group. Now, as much as they talk trash to me, because I'm okay with who I am as a person, and I did that work, I was like, oh, I'm the idiot, but that's all your choice of words you got? Like, you have no other comeback? So who's the idiot? I'm just talking about basketball as a fan. But all you can respond to me is, oh, you're an idiot. Who's the idiot? Come on, give me some more feedback. But you have no other words?
Coward.
So you're hiding
whoever you was a coward.
It's cool, but
you know what I'm saying? I'm from the neighborhood. You better, you know what I'm saying? That's my partner.
No,
I'm gonna look that Instagram up. I'm looking for you.
It's not that I wasn't offended because I understood.
That's what they're looking for.
Exactly.
That's the whole Aikido, right? The defense mechanism. It's like they want you to be offended, and you wasn't bothered.
I wasn't bothered. Exactly. I wasn't bothered.
Yeah. I'm coming after you. Yeah, boy.
You mentioned,
But another way.
Yeah, in sports.
Kids imitate behavior, not preachments. Okay, we can preach to kids about how they should behave and how they should learn from these role models or heroes. But kids, and as far back as when I was a kid, you knew when the visiting teams were coming to town, you knew the hotels for the visiting teams in any sport went, and you could just go there and see the hoochie mamas line up.
And he liked that. He grinning.
And kids knew exactly what's going on.
Right.
And so when you talk to kids who aspire to be
athletes,
why do you want to be an athlete? They talk about the wheels that sit there and drive,
yeah,
the goal that's around their neck,
right? All the objectives. And a hoochie mouth.
Yes.
Gotta get you a hoochie mouth.
Yes.
Couple of them.
And that's not acknowledged in the promotion for the NBA and the NFL.
But we've seen that. Not only that, just like when drug dealing was like this big thing. Everybody was getting rich in the neighborhood, and sports, drugs. It kind of went hand in hand in in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
The mindset that it takes to be in that environment, though.
But then you got the kid here, a new kid. Like, what does the world see today? What is, like you said, being a YouTube star? Is that it? Is, creating my own website? What is it?
What? In this conversation, what are you hearing? As far as the dialogue,
what I'm kind of like seeing is like more of the hype, like wherever they find like something that's like quick and easy, and something that can be demonstrated with a lot of people being seen. They want to be seen. So what, like TikTok, that's one of the biggest like apps that are like very like you can get viral in like a quick second, finding something quick and you being funny or showing something. People want to be seen. That's the main objective as well.
So what happened? You put the apple out, and it got brown because the air hit it. So we went from where we came from in 1943 to be just seen.
What's going in my head right now is the Fighting Irish. You're familiar with that term?
Yeah.
University of Notre Dame got its name.
It's our rebel.
Got its name when Irish were marginalized like we are today. Irish kids from the coal mines of Pennsylvania and the where the heck they were living down and to get out of the Irish ghetto. The signs were, and you've seen some of them even recently, going back and pulling pictures out of history, the help wanted signs that said, with a little subtitle, Irish need not apply. I'm saying they were marginalized by the English before we were. These kids wanted to get out of the coal mine. I wanted to get out from under Dad's thumb. Pump up your body, learn to knock somebody down, play football, Notre Dame will give you a scholarship, and you can get out of the ghetto, get out of the Irish ghetto. And so many of them did, and if you look at your history, the Irish sports writers gave them galloping ghosts and gave them romantic names, so much so that the Notre Dame football team got known as the Fighting Irish, and SC was right there competing with them during those days. Mm-hmm. Fighting Irish. And as soon as the Irish got included in the larger community, and I won't fail to mention Joe Kennedy, who was a bootlegger and earned the Kennedy fortune and put his sons up there, and the guy became president. I'm saying, in my lifetime, the Irish have been included in the preferred group. Mm. They were not when I was a child. So, and as they succeeded, the kids weren't willing to work so hard anymore. You know, there are a few Irish poor kids who are still playing football, but most of them are in the corporate offices. You know, the Irish were followed by the Polish. But Notre Dame didn't change its name to the Fighting Polish. And now it's black. And they sure, I'm sure I call them the Fighting Negro. So, but I'm just saying that's the evolution, man. It's
the evolution of just seeing the Boston Celtics have blacks all on the team. That's just
and he mentioned it how a lot of times it gets
sticking to their guns.
He just started as whoever the preferred group is, right? The preferred group is the one that could lead,
makes the rules.
That can make the rule.
Yes.
So,
and in this continent, it was the Englishmen. English Americans were never hyphenated. Every other group were. Irish American, Polish American, et cetera, et cetera. And in 1981...
So you mean English -men?
American.
English American. Because they're
the preferred group.
They created the game, so they're the preferred group.
Okay.
Everybody aspired to be where those guys were. And I'm talking about the Scotch and the Irish and the Italian and everybody else. I'm just saying... the hyphen means you are lower than me. We're the peak guys, and this was our history until a crass political move in 1981. Lee Atwater, who's a political strategist for Reagan, decided to stop hyphenating white folk. All these people who've been hyphenated, the Eastern Europeans, etc., stop that hyphen, just call them white. We'll hyphenate the people of color. We became African American in 1981. You became Latino American. American Indians became Native American. Only people of color and Asians became Asian American. Only people of color are now hyphenated. Everybody else is white. Jews, Italians, all of the
objectification at its finest.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just saying that was a political. And I met a person who wrote for the Los Angeles Times. It's called, "Well, you're a conspirator theorist." That didn't happen.
We got to call it quits. We on our way out, man. It's been a pleasure getting this history.
So stay tuned, because Carl will be back next Monday. We're going to break this down even more deeper. And come up and let you know about the solutions.
Let's talk about some solutions,
which is the foundation skill. So again, thanks for listening in, man. Appreciate you for coming out, hanging out with us, chasing hoop dreams. Shout us out, What's the Count? Sports Selectivity TV.
WDC is now on your radio. Coming live from the Bay, yeah, that way. They talk sports all day, LA. Dropping knowledge, high school, college, trying to score, play by play. NFL, NBA, NHL, that's right, you name it. They gon' bring it to you live. Talking sports and entertainment from the fame.